The buck is back, and I'm going to tell you about my chat with President Trump in the Oval Office yesterday. Plus, Florida takes a victory lap. A defiant New Jersey gym has been locked down once again. The CDC has issued school reopen guidance that's going to be a problem. What should we learn from Europe's lockdowns? Libs call for the end of meat, and Aunt Becky is going to prison. Hey everybody, welcome to the Buck Sexton Show. I am so sorry that I was away from you all yesterday. My one part of the day that is my lockdown sanity, getting a chance to talk to all of you. I had a good reason, though. I had a good excuse, and it was a bit last minute, so I didn't really get to tell you all about it beforehand. But the White House called, and the President of the United States asked me to come down and chat with him for a bit. So I felt like when the president asks you to come and have a conversation with him in the Oval Office, you do that. So I did. We spent about 35 minutes or so chatting about a whole range of issues. The good news is that he loves the Freedom Hut, thinks we do great work here, is a fan of this show, and is also now has said that he will join us on the air in the next few weeks. He's the leader of the free world. He's a busy man, but he'll join us, he said. A lot of the conversation was just two guys talking. I don't think it was not formal. It was not an interview. I was on the official schedule, so the whole thing wasn't off the record. People know that I was there, and people saw me walking around the complex and various reporters and such. But we talked about a whole lot of things. I talked about New York, our families. Some stuff was off the record. The on the record stuff, well, first off, I walked in. And, it's interesting because I've been in the Oval Office a few times, and I've been in that office in different capacities. I went there for the first time when I was about 27 with the CIA briefing team, or as the CIA briefing team, really. And I went in there and had a conversation with then President George W. Bush. I actually told Trump about that, not the specifics of the conversation, but some funny anecdotes from the first time I went in, and also my sense of Dick Cheney, whom I found shockingly polite and friendly, because my only impression of him had been what we all would hear. And I knew that the media was a caricature of him, of course, but that he was like Darth Vader and terrifying. He actually was a very, very affable fellow when he wants to be. But I told him about that. But the first thing that he said when I walked into the Oval this time, so I've been in the Oval Office now to run CIA briefings. I've been in the Oval Office to interview the president. You may recall I did that with The Hill about 18 months ago. And this time around, I was just in to have a conversation with the president. So I didn't record it. It wasn't a formal interview. And some of this was really on a personal level, and then some of it was more general. And he just wanted my sense of a whole range of issues. So we'll cover that again when he calls in for the interview. You'll hear a lot of the topics, at least, that we discussed. But I wanted to give him also some confidential advice, or my sense of things that are not necessarily for publication, or just for the president to hear from me. But it was very nice that he was attentive enough to what we're doing here, that this was his ask. I did not request this. I did not. This just came up, and the president had his staff reach out to me, and so I went down and we spent some time together. He didn't realize that I was quite the New Yorker that I am, which I thought was interesting. He assumed that, given my CIA background, I must be from where a lot of the folks listening to the show are from, more of the heartland or something along those lines. But the first thing he said when I walked in was probably my favorite thing, which is that I walked in, and the first words the leader of the free world says are, "This guy's got the best hair on TV." So that was nice. I'll take it from a guy who, Donald's got a great head of hair. Hair game respects hair game. He's got a great head of hair. And then I took a photo with him, and as we're taking the photo, I said, my girlfriend actually just cut my hair this morning. And he looked at it and he said, "Did a good job." So pretty impressive. Pretty impressive, I've got to say. And we had a great conversation. And as I said, some was off the record, some was personal, but a couple of topics that I can tell you we touched on. One is, this president is very much engaged and understands that the economic devastation that's happening because of the extended lockdown. I'll tell you this: the president told me we're never going to do this again. We're never going to do this again. Because I said, sir, I asked him, I said, sir, promise me that you're not gonna push for a second lockdown like this if we have another wave in the wintertime. He said, nope, we're going to deal with the problem. We're going to use our best resources. We're going to put out the fires as they come up. But this will not happen again. Now we still have to get out of it. And getting out of it isn't just getting states to allow for the reopen. It's getting things up and running again. It's restoring the loss of economic activity, of wealth, of all the accrued assets that people have in their small businesses and in their savings accounts, and getting people jobs back so they have paychecks week to week. And all of that is going to be a major effort. But I got to tell you, it was fun too for me yesterday because a lot of my friends and peers now work in that White House complex. So I bumped into my old colleague and friend from CNN, Kayleigh McEnany, White House press secretary. I saw Hope Hicks, who's always very cordial to me. I saw a whole bunch of folks that I know from the comms shop, a communication shop that some of you may have heard of. Probably most of them are a little more under the radar. So it was really it was a really good day, and it was a strange thing to travel down to Washington D.C. though. I took the train down, and I think there were 5 people. I mean, I counted 5. There might have been 10, but I mean, I counted 5 people on a train from New York to D.C. Remember, this is a train that in normal times I've taken so much that I have all these stories of. I'm telling you, I have made it to that Amtrak train and a dead sprint, covered in sweat, running with like 2 bags over my head as fast as I can, and leaping onto that platform. I've cut it as close as 30 seconds, 20 seconds before the doors closed and that thing pulled away. I have never missed an Amtrak train, knock on wood, which is, given how many times I've taken that thing, I must have been on that train over 100 times. So it was very strange yesterday being on it. It was empty. I mean, I had an entire car to myself, completely empty train. So I went down, and D.C. is even more locked down than New York City is, which was a surprise to me, given how New York has so many more cases. But this is also reflective of the mentality. The bureaucrats and Democrats and people on the left and the media, they have frightened areas of the country that if you're overwhelmingly a blue part of the United States, you're going with the maximum restrictions on this because politically and culturally you have adopted the maximalist lockdown position, I suppose. I got to D.C. and I know the area that I was in very well. I mean, the area in and around the White House. I got there and it took me about 20 minutes just to find a place where I could get a cup of coffee because everything was shut down. Here in New York, there's a lot that's shut down, but there's a lot that's not. There's, stores that are doing, not just grocery stores, but restaurants that are doing takeout or in some reduced fashion. D.C. was a ghost town, just nothing happening there. And it's nice outside. It's warm. It felt like some apocalyptic movie being there. I mean, here you are in the nation's capital. There's just nothing happening. No one's doing anything. And there's far lesser population density. So even on the streets, I just didn't really see anyone walking around. So I went into the White House. I had to take a coronavirus test. Negative, yes. So I took a coronavirus test yesterday. No COVID-19 at this point. And I got the chance to speak to the president for 40 minutes. And I'm just going to tell you this: we see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I talked to him before, but in a much more formal setting. And he asked for my thoughts on a whole range of things all across reform in the intelligence community, what's going on with the judiciary and judges, and We spent a good long chat, just the two of us, no one else in the room. So it was a good day for Team Buck, and I'm glad that we had the chance to go down there. And as I said, the lockdown, the president said, is not going to happen again. And the president of the United States did not shake my hand. We did not touch hands, to be very clear. There's no touching of hands. The president of the United States looked me in the eye and said, we will not do a second lockdown for the second wave that is likely to come in the winter, although not entirely certain that will happen. The other thing that he told me that I want to tell you all, and this I think we'll get into more detail. I want to hold back some of this. I got to keep you guys on the edge. Make sure you keep listening on the radio stations, our wonderful affiliates all across the country, and make sure that you also are downloading the podcast, and you got to pay attention to the Freedom Hut. But we're going to talk more about what's coming with the deep state, because the preview he gave me is the stuff that's still going to come out is going to blow your mind. It's even worse. It's even more egregious, the misconduct, than what you've already seen. It's going to blow your mind. This was from the president himself. There's more stuff coming. So clearly he's been briefed on things that are going to be made public about the Russiagate targeting of Flynn and everything around it. So get ready for that. And like I said, the president should be joining us here on the show in the next few weeks. I don't want to put too short of a time frame on it because the man's very, very busy. So that's why I wasn't here yesterday. I don't like taking days off from this show, especially in this lockdown situation. This show is my purpose, and it is also, in many ways, my sanity, and getting to talk to all of you every day. I know the Godfather, Michael Pelka, did a great job sitting in for me, but I'm sorry I didn't tell you all while I was out. I didn't want anyone to worry that I was sick or anything. But as I said, when the leader of the free world says, I want to have a chat, please come down to my office. When the president calls, you answer. So I did, and it was a very worthwhile conversation. And maybe in time there'll be other parts of it that I can get into with you. We'll see. But for now, let's dive into the news. When I'm away from my beloved Freedom Hut, when I'm away from all of you, Team Buck, all of you listening all across America, I told you that I miss the chance to speak to you every day. But especially when there's when there's a story that I go, oh man, I want to jump into this one, or there's something that happens in the news that I really look forward to just talking to you about it and getting into it. And that's how I feel about Florida's victory lap. It's really Governor Ron DeSantis's victory lap, because we need to start looking back at what was said and start creating some accountability for the commentary that was out there on these lockdowns and for the things that people were saying. We need to actually look at what's happened and talk about who's been wrong, who's been right, and what the reality is of all of this stuff. And Florida has, with an elderly population far larger than New York State or New York City's, managed to have a very low death rate, even among that elderly community. And Florida was the punching bag for weeks over how, the beaches are open, spring break is happening, DeSantis has blood on his hands. You had all this stuff that was being said. The media was always, it became this joke unto itself. Oh, Florida spring breakers think COVID is no big deal. They're all so stupid. Look how dumb Florida is. The state of Florida should have locked down sooner. No, it turns out Florida handled this very well. New York handled it terribly. Governor Cuomo should probably resign in disgrace, but that's not going to happen. Do you see any media pressure on this? Do you see any honesty in how they assess what happened there in Florida versus what happened where I am in New York City, New York State? Not at all. Not at all. The lockdowners have a political message, and they're going to stick with it no matter what. But the good news is that we also have Governor DeSantis, who is able to speak quite forcefully and eloquently, speak on his own behalf. Here is what Governor DeSantis had to say about what's really happened here with Florida Producer Mark, play that clip.
Our data is available. Our data is transparent. In fact, Dr. Birx has talked multiple times about how Florida has the absolute best data. So any insinuation otherwise is just typical partisan narrative trying to be spun. And part of the reason is that because you got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. Not only do we have a lower death rate, well, we have way lower deaths generally. We have a lower death rate than the Acela Corridor, D.C., everyone up there. We have a lower death rate than the Midwest, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But even in our region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida has the lower death rate. And I was the #1 landing spot from tens of thousands of people leaving the #1 hot zone in the world to come to my state. So we've succeeded, and I think that people just don't want to recognize it because it challenges their narrative, it challenges their assumption, so they got to try to find a boogeyman. Maybe it's that there are black helicopters circling the Department of Health. If you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.
He's absolutely right. Everything he said there is true. It was a great rant. I mean, you could tell that he'd been waiting to say it for a while. You could tell this had been building. He had been marinating in this righteous indignation for quite some time. To be a national punching bag in complete defiance of the facts, which are that the facts show us Florida has done remarkably well. Florida has been incredibly efficient and prescient in how it dealt with this crisis. And a lot of other states, I mean, particularly New York, Governor Cuomo has been lionized by the press. This guy was sending COVID-positive seniors into nursing homes like a total moron, and a lot of people died in nursing homes. Florida has many more nursing homes, much higher per capita elderly population than New York does, and a fraction of New York's deaths. A fraction. Oh, but they weren't closing soon enough, we were told. Oh, they're not listening to the guidance. No, it's because it's a Republican governor in a state that's trending red. It's a purple state, but it trends red. And they didn't want to move from the narrative. In the early days, as I said, all the rural areas were going to suffer horribly because they're Trump supporters and they're so dumb. No, it's the blue areas, actually. It's the cities. It's places like where I am. We got crushed. Those of you that live out in red parts of the country where you actually have fresh air to breathe and room to move around and, aren't 5 feet from your neighbors all the time, you did fine. The national press, though, was sneering at you. Oh, you're probably one of those non-science Trump voters. Have fun in your pickup truck when you get COVID. No, actually, the people that live in rural parts of America did just fine. It's the cities that have been hit so badly, and cities run by Democrats. So we don't learn from the states that have defied the so-called consensus in the lockdowns. We don't learn from those areas of the country that people were criticizing, in the lockdowner consensus, just absolutely trying to annihilate them in the public opinion. And we just keep on going forward with the stupid metrics they have in place. I saw today the Associated Press has an article, 300,000 contact tracers. That's what they want now, nationwide. We're going to create the TSA is what, 80,000 people? We're going to create a 300,000 person contact tracer army. So I guess on a contract, so that they can sit down and ask you everyone you've met with and then go bother those people and then tell those people they have to all quarantine for 14 days too, irrespective of whatever the test may show, the actual COVID test. This is completely insane. This is what the people in charge are telling you we have to do. You can have 300,000 people going around, coming into your home, sitting down with you. I'm an official, government blah, blah, blah. Who have you been around? Where have you been? What have you been doing? And then at the end of it, they can say, well, you have to stay home now and quarantine for 14 days, as does your whole family. Oh, you have a A husband or a wife who needs to go to their job to make sure you put food on the table? Not for 2 weeks, you don't. How often is this going to happen to you, too? You're going to have to quarantine how many times? You think it's that hard to come into contact with casual contact to someone that has COVID-19? How many 2-week quarantines can you go through before you're not going to be able to hold any job of any kind? Oh, I know what the answer is. When I push this in front of the libs, they'll say, well, we'll just have the federal government write another check. Government will just keep writing checks. This is a horrible idea. I'm pleased to see David Marcus of The Federalist, who I've had on my WR show. I haven't had him on here. But David Marcus, he wrote an editorial in the New York Post, "End the lockdown now, open up New York, open all of it." I mean, this is what I've been saying on radio for a while, but I was appreciative. It's the front page of the New York Post. End the lockdown, end it now. Absolutely. New York should be open for business. People should be able to go about their lives the way that they want to. You want to be extra cautious? Be extra cautious. You want to go out and go to a store of any kind to purchase goods and services? You should be allowed to. You want to go work out in the gym? Go work on the gym. This cannot continue. And that's why I'm particularly frustrated that this gym in New Jersey that had said that they were going to open. By the way, producer Mark, do you know how far is this gym from you?
What town is it in?
I forget.
I don't know then.
I think it's. I'm not sure which one, but it's. There's a gym that has opened up. Here we got to find out now. Now we can't keep our audience.
I'm seeing it's South Jersey, so it's actually fairly far. Jersey's a long state.
It's South Jersey. There we go. It's South Jersey gym that defied the shutdown order. Yeah, South Jersey is quite a hike from Belmar. I've never heard of
that's practically Philadelphia. That's on the Jersey Shore.
So New Jersey health officials have closed a Camden County gym that defied the statewide shutdown order, according to ABC News' affiliate here. Atlas Gym in Belmar gained national attention when it allowed members to go inside and work out on Monday, despite Governor Phil Murphy's order. The New Jersey Department of Health issued an emergency closure order for the gym. So, they've shut this thing down. And look, I think it's here's the problem, my friends. This is unconstitutional, and endless. This is kind of like declaring martial law and then just keep extending it, which some countries do. This is what banana republics. This is what third world tin pot dictatorships. This is what they. Oh yeah, we're just going to declare a state of emergency, and you're going to live in that state of emergency for the next 50 years. Get used to it. I'm sorry. This is not a storm. This is not something that falls within the government's defined authority. It just doesn't. They can't keep doing this. Health officials said gyms require the communal use of equipment such as barbells and treadmills that may harbor the virus. Oh, no, the virus. If you're going to a gym to work out, chances are you're not in the high risk age group. I'm not saying it's a zero chance, but overwhelmingly, you're not seeing a lot of people that are hitting the dumbbell super hard over their 70. Now, I know someone in this audience who's 75 who could kick my butt is going to send in photos of their six-pack. Okay, I'm saying in general. But to the point about people making their own, there's a lot of 7-year-olds that could kick my butt in this audience, I'm sure. And there's a bunch of guys in here who are doing stuff in Nam that I would never even imagine being able to pull off. Anyway, the truth here is that the government is overreaching. This is unconstitutional, and unconstitutional. Can't be allowed to continue. But how do we get it to stop? How do we get it to stop? They just can arbitrarily say your business is still shut down. I mean, one thing, look, I put on about 10 pounds during this lockdown. I'm not proud of it, but I don't know what else to say. Because I'm somebody who likes to eat, but I also like to work out. I can work out. This is bad for, on a collective level, right? If you look at the group, all people that work out, think of the damage being done to health over a few months here from people putting on weight, all the stress, all the anxiety, and then you add in all the more serious stuff too, the overdoses and the alcoholism and the child abuse, all those terrible things. This is too much. I don't know how to effectively make a stand against this in any one place yet. I'm still trying to think this one through because, de Blasio, and I'm sure it's true of Governor Murphy in New Jersey as well, they'll send the police after you, and they will lock you up. They say here, the notice of embargo from Camden County Division of Environmental Health, they're saying that criminal sanctions and or civil penalties can follow from this. So this is just wrong. This is wrong what they're doing. The gym should be open. I mean, I have a gym in my building here in New York. Why can't I go use that gym? I just got a COVID test yesterday. I don't have COVID, and I'm not worried about getting COVID from somebody else. Why can't I get it? I mean, yeah, I'm going to try not to lick my fingers after I touch the barbell every 2 seconds. But other than that, we do not live. I mean, if I end up coming in here, I want to be very clear about this. If I come in here and tell you one day doing this show, hey guys, turns out I'm actually feeling pretty crappy because I've got COVID-19. I've made a choice to live my life. That doesn't refute anything that I've said. And hopefully if I get COVID-19, my immune system will handle it reasonably well. But you never know. But I'm living my life with that. I understand that reality. I'm willing to take that risk. Just as I've taken other risks in life. Just as, I remember finding myself flying around in a Black Hawk with an M4 strapped to my chest, being like, how the, over part of a country that was overrun with Al-Qaeda, thinking to myself, how did I end up in this place? So we take risks. We take risks. That's the reality of being a functioning adult with a life worth leading. You take intelligent risk. And that brings me to school. Speaking of the other side of the spectrum, we're talking about adults. What about the kids? Because we're making decisions for kids. And right now, I wish I could say that this was going to bring about a homeschooling revolution. But for a lot of people, this isn't really homeschooling. That's what I've been finding out. They didn't have time. Parents didn't have time to prepare for this. They didn't set this up in advance. This is just a sort of an educational triage situation. And that means that everyone's just doing what they can with the kids at home. And now we're being told that maybe they're not even going to open up even further into the year. They might not be open up in the fall. They might try some distance learning or some nonsense. Children are at almost zero risk from this. You as an adult right now listening to this, you are at, by the numbers, and we have real numbers now. We have real data. Forget what you were being told 2 months ago. Now we got real data. You are at a less than 1% chance of dying from COVID-19 if you contract COVID-19. And a decent percentage of people listening to this right now, I don't know what it is, but let's say it's anywhere from 5 to 15% already have had it and have antibodies and have no threat whatsoever against your health, at least for the foreseeable future. So those are the real numbers. But for children, the chance of getting this and dying isn't less than 1%. It's really more like less than 0.0001%. It is infinitesimal. But we can't open schools. We can't find a way. Why don't we have some serology tests to at least get teachers who can have kids? Maybe we have to expand class size a little bit, but teachers who are at low risk or have already had antibodies to the disease. Yeah, I know this is not going to be that easy, but let's get a little creative with this, folks, right? I mean, let's actually allow for solutions instead of just stay at home. Stay at home is not a solution. It wasn't a solution when they said it the first time, and it gets more obvious every passing day of the massive negative consequences of doing this. We're just talking about New Jersey a second ago. Producer Mark is, I suppose, also our special Jersey correspondent because he lives in Jersey, so he knows Jersey well. We had Governor Phil Murphy. By the way, what do people think of Murphy in Jersey?
You realize I moved here 2 months ago and I haven't been outside
I know, but
since,
come on.
right?
You're home all day reading about, Jersey.
I think it's split because Jersey's a fairly red state, but he is obviously a Democratic governor.
Yeah, there's red parts of Jersey.
Yes.
I mean, it always votes Democrat because of the part of it that's close to
He's
New
also
York
fairly
City.
new, I believe.
Well, here's what he says about going back to school in a responsible way. Here's what the governor of New Jersey, which has been hit. Remember, New York is number one. I think New Jersey, maybe Michigan, but I think New Jersey's number two for overall hotspot from COVID-19. Play 5.
We've got a small, if not a large army looking at this right now. We're planning on going back. That's going to be our base case. But we've got to do it in a responsible way. We've got to do it, the basic social distancing realities, face coverings, but we've also got to do it with respect to teachers and administrators in this whole notion of cross-generational spread of the virus. I said yesterday that we're going to give guidance to parents and kids and educators and staff, I hope by early to mid-June. And there's a lot of uneasiness around this, understandably, right now. We want to make sure we get this right. And as we've said all along, indoor stuff is a lot harder than outdoors. So, you'll see outdoor dining, for instance, in New Jersey before you'll see it inside. And schools obviously have a big element of their reality, physical presence is inside. But we want to get it right, and we're preparing on the path that's what we will do.
Okay. That's a lot of we're going to do a lot of things and we're going to keep everyone safe and we got to think about it and look at no one's willing to make any tough decisions on this. Telling everyone to stay home is not a tough decision because you feel like you're protected because you're just trying to save everybody, even though it's destroying a lot. The cost of staying home is very high as well. The new CDC guidelines for reopening schools, for those of you listening who have kids, they've got to be kidding with this, but they're not. Let me read you. This is the new CDC guidelines for reopening schools, and it just goes through this point by point. Wear masks over the age of 2. Really? Children are not only at very low risk from this disease if they get it, they're considered to be very unlikely vectors of the spread of the disease to adults. So now you're gonna have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds going on wearing masks. I mean, aren't you just trying to make sure that everybody knows how to go potty and everything when you're 3 years old? I'm not good with kids, but isn't that I don't think you're going to be able to convince them to keep these masks on their faces. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, they're going to be running with little masks on. We're gonna do this to kids now. I think it's going to traumatize them too. This is bizarre. They're not going to understand what's going on. I got to wear a mask now everywhere. No sharing of any items or supplies. All belongings in individual cubbies or labeled containers. No sharing electronic devices, toys, learning aids. Well, that's going to cut down a lot on how much access to different learning aids and tools kids have, right? No more playing with blocks during, we used to have, at my school when I was a little kid, I remember we had juice and cookies time. Oh, man, I used to love that juice and cookies. A little bit of OJ. A little bit of, we used to have a lot of what's that brand that does, who does mint Milanos? Do you remember do you know those cookies?
Yeah, Milano.
No, it's not, the company's not called, is it called Milano?
I think so. Or maybe it's Pepperidge Farm Milano.
Pepperidge Farm. It's not called Milano. Producer Mark, get on your game
also,
today.
What kind of school did you go to that they were giving you Milanos as a snack?
It was a nice school.
Yeah, obviously.
So desks 6, this is more the CDC guidance, desks 6 feet apart, all facing the same way. I mean, they're going to be able to fit very few kids in these classrooms now. Distance on school buses, 1 child per seat, skip rows. How are you going to think of the strain this is going to put on this? They don't have the resources to do any of this. Install sneeze guards and partitions anywhere you cannot space 6 feet apart. So kids are going to be in plexiglass prisons now in the classroom too. That's great. One-way routes in hallways, tape on sidewalks and walls to assure kids stay 6 feet apart. I mean, this is we're setting this up so that kids are going to be living they're going to be going to school in a penal colony. They're going to have to be regimented with where they can walk in the lines that are written on the ground and plexiglass guards around them. Why don't we just put all the little 4-year-olds in orange jumpsuits? All because COVID, Got to make sure we see the kids clearly and they know that the state is watching them. No communal shared spaces, no cafeterias or playgrounds. Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be great. No playground now. Your kid's going to go to school. They're going to put your kid in a plexiglass box with a mask on his face, with nobody near him within 6 feet of him, also in plexiglass boxes, with a teacher in a hazmat suit at the top, in the front of the classroom. And why even bother? Why even bother? And remember, kids are at almost zero risk. This is the CDC. CDC's got a bunch of idiots making decisions like this. I'm just going to say it. They don't understand how the world works. They may understand, this virus is this virus, and the virus has, a covering of fat that is, whatever. Who cares? Because this is policy. This isn't about virus research. This is about our lives. They have no better understanding of this than you do, my friend. They're just making this up as they go along. Only pre-packages, boxes of bags or food. No cafeteria food. No field trips, no assemblies, no external organizations allowed in the schools. Limited visitors. So no one can come in. Like they're turning the schools into prisons. That's what they're doing. Same children stay with same staff all day. No switching groups or teachers. I guess the teacher's going to be in a hazmat suit. Do you children comply? Do you comply? Let's just set up a little robot. Let's set up a robot that has like a little taser gun in case little 5-year-old Jimmy or little 6-year-old Sally takes the mask off their face. Do not take the mask off your face. I mean, how far away is that from reality? Look at the stupidity of this. This is what they think reopening schools is? Stagger arrival and departure times for kids to limit exposure to crowds. This is nuts.